Hey guys, it's NerdGasm. I'm back with another video on the award-winning Power Rangers comics by Boom Studios. We're moving on to the third crossover, published in 2020, that lasted over a year, called Unlimited Power. It was broken up into two parts, and is a pretty massive storyline. But like a madman, I'm going to cover it all in one go. Strap yourselves in. Just like Necessary Evil had two smaller lead-up story arcs that bridged the gap between Shattered Grid and it, Unlimited Power also had two, but unlike the ones from Necessary Evil, Power Rangers, Ranger Slayer, and Draken New Dawn don't factor into the rest of the story I'm reviewing for you today. They still have some cool ideas and moments within them I want to quickly go over though. In Ranger Slayer, written by Ryan Parrott and drawn by Dan Mora, Kimberly Hart from Draken's timeline finds herself back home after walking through the interdimensional gateway, the Master Arc, at the end of Necessary Evil. In the world of the Coinless, Draken had gone missing and is believed dead. The power vacuum caused by his absence resulted in a war for control between Scorpina and Lord Zedd, which Scorpina ultimately won. The Coinless Resistance would be caught in the crossfire of this conflict, and Trini Kwan would grow desperate, trying to save her friends, finding and using one of Rita Repulsa's conjuring spells to bring her back from the dead, in the hopes that she would eliminate their enemies, and in some way redeem herself. Zordon had always believed there was good in her. Of course, it doesn't work. The zombified Rita wants to conquer the Earth, conjures an entire army of spirit sentries, and even reanimates the rotting corpse of Goldar. Scary. The Ranger Slayer and the Coinless convince Scorpina to band with them against Rita's forces. During the epic battle, Finster 5 unveils his latest creation, a fusion of Lord Zedd's remains, the Dragon Zord, and some lizard monster, calling it Zerd. Rita is defeated when Trini stabs her staff with a spear, sending all of the zombies back to the underworld. Having brought them victory, the Ranger Slayer is chosen to be Lord Draken's successor in his universe. The sentries all bow to their new empress. Kim is seen wearing a gold chest armor that resembles the iconic Dragon Shield. The next story is Draken New Dawn, and it was written by Anthony Birch and illustrated by Simone Ragazzani. I found it damn good. A coinless radical would attempt to assassinate Kim in her throne room. Adam Parks suggests taking him to a special prison Draken had built when he was in power, called the Deadlock. To prove to her subjects that she is a strong leader and not another clone of Draken, she would lead an assault on the prison to free all of its inmates. While there, Kim would discover a hidden chamber where a man in a bizarre ranger suit bolted to his body has been chained up in the center of. She releases him against his wishes, and he violently attacks her. She notes how skilled a fighter he is. When he's brought back to the palace, Kim interrogates the unknown ranger, who has no memory of who he is. When he learns of Lord Draken's demise, he doesn't believe it's true, says it isn't possible. Though he has no memory of his identity, he does know why Draken had kept him alive. What follows is absolutely soul-crushing, barbaric. Flashbacks showing some of the darkest stuff I've read in these Power Rangers comics, bar none. I wasn't prepared for it, as Draken had slowly conquered the multiverse, defeating and killing Power Rangers teams across space and time. He forced the Unknown Ranger to watch it all from his prison, watch every flicker of the flame of hope, as Draken put it, fade out. After each of Draken's conquests, he would return to the chamber and ask the Unknown Ranger how he would stop him. The man was tortured for nearly a decade, his spirit torn to shreds. Lord Draken kept him alive as a pet, as a trophy, but also a twisted resource to squeeze strategies out of, and sharpen his own prowess as a leader and warrior to overcome anything the Power Rangers might throw at him on the battlefield. And when it's revealed who this unknown ranger is, everything falls into place. It's Jason Lee Scott, the former Red Ranger, presumed dead all this time in the world of the Coinless. You wonder if the battle they had in the command center years prior was as decisive as we were led to believe. The fact that Lord Draken has kept Jason alive tells me that he may not have it in him to finish him off. And would Draken have been able to conquer the multiverse alone without Jason's input? Does this new information taint that victory? It's a lot to unpack. There are so many questions. Jason would explain that if he was ever removed from the Deadlock prison, a failsafe put in place by Draken would initiate. The prison's communications array would transmit a signal into outer space and call upon an alien monster named Eclipta. She crash lands in a meteor outside Angel Grove, and her job is to test a planet's defenses before her master, the Grand Monarch of Evil, arrives, Dark Spectre. Jason believes the only chance they have against Eclipta is to retrieve the power coins from Lord Draken's diffuser and bring back the Power Rangers. His, Trini's, and Zack's coins had been used to power the sentries for years, and the more the power is spread out, the weaker it becomes. Draken had done this so none of his followers would be strong enough to oppose him. Kim refuses to retrieve the power coins and cripple her army, and this angers Jason. He calls her a fascist, labels her Lady Draken, and can't in good conscience aid her in the coming battle. Kim, the Coinless, Scorpina, and the Sentries go out to the meteor's location and fight Eclipta and her minions. Kim gets stabbed in the shoulder by one of her own arrows. They lose when the Sentries suddenly power down, and this gives Eclipta the opening needed to throw Adam to the ground and stab him in the chest, killing him. This devastates Scorpina, as she had developed feelings for Adam after he had comforted her when she learned that she had been lied to, told that the Rita Repulsa of this universe had been killed by the Power Rangers, when in reality it was the man she stood behind, Lord Draken. We discover that Jason had forced the location of the diffuser out of Finster 5 to reclaim his power coin. He did not skip leg day either. Look at them thick thighs. He's oblivious to the pain he has caused Kim's army. Scorpina attempts to kill him for allowing Adam to die. Jason feels they have all been misusing the power coins and have diluted their sacred energies. He's astounded when Trini and Zack reject their coins and don't morph into Power Rangers. He fails to realize that those abilities aren't all that's required to be one. Kim reminds him that Zordon made them Rangers to protect people first and foremost, which he failed to do when he took the powers of her army away. Jason has grown selfish. He's been broken by the torture he endured. He can't believe they would all choose to throw the power away. He wishes he had all of the power coins himself, so he could have ended the war before it even began. Kim tells him he sounds like Draken. She knows he's hurting. The scars he has will never heal, but all of them are more than their trauma. Jason needs to stop living in the past. Things are different now, complicated. The true power is in letting the power go. The heroes would help Finster 5 build another diffuser that they place all of the power coins into. They shatter and give the entire populace of Angel Grove the combined energies of the Power Rangers. Though their powers are spread thin, their sheer numbers are enough to overwhelm Eclipta. The diffuser would go critical and explode, destroying all of the power coins and depowering the city, but the citizens keep fighting the weakened Eclipta and defeat her. Moving on now to the Unlimited Power storyline proper, we've got an introduction which spanned Mighty Morphin Power Rangers number 51 to 55, written by Ryan Parrott with art by Moises Hidalgo. At the end of Necessary Evil, we saw that Lord Draken had somehow survived the events of Shattered Grid. He crash-landed on Earth and warned the Rangers that something else was on its way. Ominous. Draken is sporting a partially shaved head of hair and what I believed to be a red face tattoo initially, only for it to be revealed later as scarring he suffered in battle. Not meant to be part of this reality, Draken is knocked out by his virtuous counterpart and locked inside a special cell within the command center. Since the last time we saw him, he's become a bit more unhinged. He's begun talking to the decapitated head of Saba he's been carrying around with him on his neck. With the help of Billy Cranston, Grace Sterling has been able to restore the power of the Dragon Coin at Promethea Labs, and suggests that Lord Draken be given it to become the new Green Ranger. Sounds insane, but he is the greatest fighter the Rangers have ever faced. He might prove useful to them as an ally in a worst-case scenario. Lord Zedd has a new plan to kill the Power Rangers. He sends down the latest of Finster's creations, Psycho Slug the Terror Snail. It sprays green acidic slime out of its back that covers the Rangers and begins eating through their armor. The heroes still manage to defeat the monster with their combined Power Blaster attack. When the Rangers approach what's left of Psycho Slug, a small green shell, it teleports away before they get too close. On the moon, it's revealed that the shell contains pieces of the green Chaos Crystal, and that Zedd needed the energy of the Power Blaster to repair it. Using the Chaos Crystal, he turns his minions, Squat, Babu, Finster, and Goldar, into enhanced Dark Rangers. Needing someone as diabolical as he is to lead them into battle, he has a putty clone of Rita Repulsa created that possesses all of the same magic knowledge of the original, but none of her flaws. Lord Zedd grants her the power of the Dark Red Ranger. The Dark Rangers attack Angel Grove and surprise the Power Rangers with their newfound speed, agility, and Terror Zords in the form of various monsters. The Terror Zords are then combined into an equally freaky Mega Terror Zord. On the brink of death, Billy calls on Grace to initiate the Green Protocol. Lord Zedd had teleported down from the moon onto a nearby building to witness his victory over the Power Rangers firsthand. He believes there is no one else left on the planet that can stand in his way until a new Green Ranger with Promethea upgrades gets the jump on him, literally. We are made to believe that this Green Ranger, the property of Promethea Labs, is Lord Draken. Grace had secretly spoken to him in his cell at the command center in a brief window of time that Zordon could not locate her. She offers him a chance at redemption, asks him what he's willing to do for freedom. The Green Ranger stabs the Chaos Crystal and destroys it. It causes a massive energy explosion, knocking both him and Lord Zedd back. The Dark Rangers lose their powers. Lord Zedd teleports himself back to the moon, but the chaos energy absorbed by his body causes him to collapse beside his throne. His minions stand over their master and wonder what their next course of action will be, but Zedd eventually awakens. He still appears to be himself, exposed muscles covered in a metallic exoskeleton, but now the fluid tubes pumping into him are filled with green chaos energy, powering him up. Out in space, while transporting a group of aliens to their home planet Gorvanos 3, the Omega Rangers find it in ruin. Whatever energy was used against the planet is causing it to melt in on itself, which can't be good. While searching for the source of the attack, the Omega Rangers battle lifeless matter that has been transformed into monsters. They show us their equivalent of the mighty Morphin Rangers' Power Blaster attack, the Omega Strike. Jason and Zack lock their gauntlets together while Trini brings the hammer down on them to release a wave of energy. Friggin' sweet. The Rangers encounter the mysterious entity responsible for Gorvanos 3's destruction, a multi-armed being known as an Imperial that has been around for centuries. They are servants of creation, ensure the cycle of existence continues. They kill planets so new life can rise from their ashes. Unable to defeat this godlike foe, the Omega Rangers are forced to retreat. Boom Studios' Mighty Morphin Power Rangers comic series would end with issue 55, and from it, 2 more would be spawned. Mighty Morphin, which followed the exploits of the Mighty Morphin Power Rangers team on Earth, and simply Power Rangers, which focused on the Omega Rangers' adventures in outer space. The meat and potatoes of the Unlimited Power event covers everything within the first 16 issues of both series, jumping back and forth between them at certain points. The Mighty Morphin issues were written by Ryan Parrott and illustrated by Marco Renna, and the Power Rangers issues were written by Parrott and drawn by Francesco Mortarino. Lord Zedd would continue to send monsters down to Earth to kill the Power Rangers. You know how it goes. One of the monsters is a panda bear named Pandemonium. It has chains wrapped around its wrists and forearms, and sharp spears sticking out of its back. The Rangers barely get a chance to fight it because the Green Ranger shows up again and takes it down all by himself. The Rangers begin to suspect the Green One may be Lord Draken, but they are told by Alpha he's still locked in his cell. They try to convince the Green Ranger, who refuses to utter a single word to them, to come with them back to the command center to meet Zordon, but he swiftly teleports away. The Omega Rangers return to Earth and tell Zordon about the Imperial they encountered. Learning that the Imperials are what Lord Draken feared and ran from himself, they ask Zordon if they can take him with them. He has information that could prove useful. Feeling his authority is being undermined, Zordon responds with a hard no. Draken was the closest he's ever gotten to losing the universe he has protected for over 10,000 years. He's not going to relinquish him to anyone, under any circumstances. So the Omega Rangers decide to go against Zordon's wishes and break Draken out of his prison instead. I love the page layout showing them sneaking through Alpha 5 security, crawling through air vents, and Trini slips through a laser wall to deactivate it for Jason and Zack. I had the theme song for The Great Escape playing in my head during this sequence. Without a passcode to unlock Draken's cell, Jason improvises and cuts into it with his power sword. Alpha 5 detects the breakout. Being ordered to guard Draken at all times by Zordon, he's forced to attack his friends. Draken does what the other Rangers could not, and punches the poor robot in the dome, scrambling his neural net. Zordon would discover the Omega Rangers and condemn Jason for his betrayal of everything the Power Rangers stand for. Jason tells him his way isn't the only way, and that his time on Earth has made him fail to realize that. As he, Trini, Zack, and Draken teleport to the Spectrum 2, Jason tells Zordon he's sorry. Zordon takes it well, using the command center's communications array. He sends out an APB on the Omega Rangers to every ally he has across the universe. He wants them, along with Draken, taken into custody and their Ranger powers stripped from them. Lord Zedd would get Finster to up his monster game and unleash a new group of putties on Angel Grove, chompers that have sharp teeth, pilots that have bat wings, and pincers equipped with nasty claws. Zedd also makes a multi-armed Chaos Putty using his Chaos energy. He gets them all to attack a concert taking place in the heart of the city. Like something out of They Live, even activates a few that have been walking around as civilians for who knows how long. Creepy. The Green Ranger arrives to help the other Power Rangers, and the Chaos Putty shocks him with Chaos energy. Adam's vision is also corrupted. He attacks his friends, seeing them as monsters, and the Putties as his teammates. Lord Zedd would make his Putty Prime grow and wreak further havoc on the city. The Rangers fight it with their Megazords. The Putty Prime shoots one of its hands into the face of the Thunderzord and knocks it down. The hand then breaks apart into smaller Chaos Putties that begin climbing over the Thunderzord's exterior. Ah! Get him off! A modified Dragon Zord makes itself known and launches missiles at the monster as the Green Ranger plays his dagger like a flute. Lord Zedd would create a large bubble of chaos energy that surrounds Angel Grove, trapping all of its inhabitants inside. The Rangers would find themselves suddenly teleported back to the command center before it fully touches down though. Eugene Skulovich's new girlfriend, Candace Clark, introduced a few issues earlier, was the one who activated the teleporter. She reveals herself to be an alien stationed on Earth named Azalea. She's an elite warrior known as a Guardian of Altar, whose mission is protecting not only her home planet, also Zordons, but the universe as a whole. The mighty Morphin Rangers are unable to teleport themselves back into the Chaos Energy bubble. The Green Ranger is still inside, however, and sends a message to all of Angel Grove's citizens. He tells them to remain calm, that he won't abandon them, and to prove what he says, removes his helmet on TV, so they all know his identity. The Green Ranger is Matthew Cook, Angel Grove High football star, and Kimberly Hart's ex-boyfriend. We see the backstory behind Matt becoming the Green Ranger. Billy had convinced Grace to recruit him because he believed he had all the qualities required in a Power Ranger. Grace was a hard-ass during Matt's training at Promethea, pushing the kid to his absolute limits. He would be forced to quit the football team to invest 100% of his time to Power Ranging, which upset his parents. He tried to calm them down by saying he's been volunteering with cleanup crews in the city. The fact that Angel Grove has them is just fucking depressing. How is the city not bankrupt from damages? So yeah, clearly Lord Draken isn't the new Green Ranger, it's Matt Cook. I'm glad the comic went in that direction, because it's far less predictable, and there are so many more things you can do with it. Having him be this wildcard ranger kept in Grace's back pocket. I love how he and Grace argue. She's projecting herself onto Matt, being a former ranger herself, one that had wanted to use the power to accomplish so much more to fix the world than Zordon was comfortable with. Matt and Grace make the decision to reveal his identity on TV. It not only assures Angel Grove that one of their heroes isn't some faceless alien, but also acts as a big middle finger to Zordon. Generally speaking, it's forbidden for a Power Ranger to reveal themselves to anyone, but Grace and Promethea play by their own rules. After nearly a month, Grace manages to contact the command center with a very faint signal. She has found a way to temporarily disrupt part of the barrier at a specific location the Rangers can enter for a brief time. When they, along with Zelia in her armor, enter the city, they find the streets completely deserted and an energy pillar reaching into the sky in the middle. Without warning, they are approached by an army of putties and Promethea soldiers, being led by Matthew and Goldar. They demand that the Rangers surrender. A battle ensues. Tommy would head to the energy pillar with his white Tiger Zord, supercharged by Zelia's staff. in the hopes of destroying it, but is stopped by the Putty Prime, which Lord Zedd had been directly controlling by this point. Kim, Rocky, and Adam are captured and taken to Promethea. There they are told that Grace and Matt had chosen to ally with Zedd because he's done more for the city than Zordon ever has. His monsters have been doing construction, repairing buildings, and putting an end to crime. He's earned the trust of Angel Grove. When Zedd portals himself into the lab, he asks the Rangers what they think of his utopia. The shield around the city wasn't made to keep everyone in, but to keep the Power Rangers out and free its citizens of their tyranny. Ain't that fucking rich? Coming from a warlord like him. Zedd has made a bargain with Grace. He will leave the Earth alone forever if she gives him what he wants, Zordon of Eltar. The Rangers have the power to end all of this violence and destruction, can save their planet if they simply betray Zordon. Easy enough. Matt and Grace were stringing Zedd along the whole time though. Matt would summon the Dragon Zord to help Tommy defeat the Putty Primes. He takes one out with the drill tail, and Tommy follows it up by shoving this gold sphere into a hole in his control panel to activate the White Tiger Thunderball attack. The Dragon Zord then uses one of its upgrades to fire a beam of energy out of its mouth, Godzilla style, and destroy the energy pillar powering the force field and deactivate it. Unfortunately, Zedd was also stringing the heroes along. He goes after Zelia, survives a strike from her battle staff, and is amused at her perception of power. He teleports the two of them back to his moon base as the Rangers look on in disbelief. Catching up with the Omega Rangers, they have been on the run as intergalactic outlaws. They learned that the Imperial they encountered on Gorvanos 3 had killed the Red Emissary, while traveling to coordinates given to them by Draken, where he witnessed the Red Emissary's demise. The Spectrum too would lose power and begin drifting in space. The Rangers split up to link the auxiliary backups together and hear hissing throughout the ship's dark corridors. Trini finds power lines that have been sucked dry of energy. The atmosphere and tension throughout this sequence is incredible, like something out of an alien film. The Rangers get ambushed by not xenomorphs, but energy vampires called the Horde that can smell their life force. The touch of these vampires is able to burn through the Rangers' helmets like acid, and the Rangers' weapons phase right through them because they are incorporeal. The king of the vampires, who sort of resembles Etrigan the demon, would find Draken in his cell, and Draken makes a deal with him to save his own skin. Typical. If they spare him, he promises to provide the Horde with entire planets and universes, bursting with life that they can consume for many moons to come. The Horde were once a peaceful species on a remote world. They wanted to find traces of other life in the universe and inadvertently warped reality when trying to create a form of intergalactic travel. The resulting explosion destroyed their planet and trapped them all in between dimensions, between life and death. Absorbing the life energy of other creatures makes their own bodies tangible again. Trini would use her hammer to smash open the airlock in the Spectrum 2 shuttle bay to suck some of the vampires out into space. Xi and the large alien cat named Yale, one of the empowered in the Necessary Evil storyline that had befriended Zack, go to the command deck to confront the Horde King. Having used the power-dampening collar around his neck to broadcast a signal to the other Rangers to pinpoint his location, Lord Draken would use Xi and Yale's distraction to stab the Horde King in the spine and kill him. He had been made corporeal because of the energy he had absorbed from Draken earlier. Draken had only pretended to betray the Omega Rangers in order to help them defeat the Horde King. It's nowhere near enough to earn the Rangers' trust though, and they toss him back in his cell. The Omega Rangers would travel into the Morphin grid, where they find themselves within Draken's dreamed-up Angel Grove seen at the end of Shattered Grid, what's left of it at least. The emissaries had imprisoned him in that reality as punishment. He had lost track of the days because time doesn't exist there. Within this empty realm, lonely, Draken had built himself a throne, and with the little magic he did learn from Rita Repulsa, animated anything he could find into makeshift servants, his only friends. He's embarrassed that the other Rangers have caught a glimpse of this. Now, I want to say that you feel bad for him, but not really. Nothing these writers could do would be enough to redeem Draken in any worthwhile way, following the events of Shattered Grid and what we saw him do to the Jason of his universe. Let's not forget those scarring images. Lord Draken will always be a monster no matter what. It's indisputable. His actions should never be forgiven. He must reap what he sowed, and it's a waste of time trying to take him in a more sympathetic direction like this. To me, it doesn't make a lick of sense or serve much purpose. I'll explain more as to the why a bit later. Anywho, Draken had been guarded in his dream world turned nightmare by spirit manifestations, and one of them, a large bear, would sniff the heroes out and attack them. They are split up, and Jason would come across the remains of the Red Emissary on the floor of a small diner. He regroups with the others, and they bring the emissary's remains onto the Spectrum too, and XI puts them back together like a puzzle. While searching for a fusion converter to repair their ship on the planet Onyx under the guise of outlaws, Jason and Zack would be arrested by SPD, Space Patrol Delta, and interrogated as war criminals. Astronema, the main antagonist of Power Rangers in Space, would make an appearance here, breaking off a piece of her armor to try to stab Zack in their shared cell, and Trini, XI, and Draken team up with Astronema's adoptive father, Ecliptor. Always loved his design, to infiltrate the train, delivering their allies to the nearest spaceports and break them out. When the heroes reach Eternity Point on Safe Haven, XI uses ancient Morphin Master technology to do a deep scan of the universe for traces of emissary signatures. He finds several more planets that have been wiped clean by the Imperial. Draken even suggests that they may have been responsible for the extinction of the dinosaurs on Earth, which is a fun idea. XI calculates the next target of the Imperial, and the Rangers intercept it, attacking the planet Hartunia. I love how the Imperial calls itself a disciple of time, that time itself is the only true God in the universe, all-knowing, ever-watchful, and inescapable. Worlds like Hartunia are blessed with time only to squander it. Now the clock must be reset. Powerful stuff. The Omega Rangers empty most of their Zord's energy banks to hit the Imperial with an Omega Energy Vortex attack, but it isn't enough to stop it. The Imperial says it hasn't felt that level of pain in a millennia though, so that's a good sign, I guess. The Rangers are only able to save a handful of Hartunians before the planet is culled by a giant ball of energy driven into its surface by the Imperial. In the aftermath, the cosmic being picks up a Hartunian skull and reports that the cycle of creation has begun anew to their master, the supreme guardian of Eltar, named Zartus. Zartus would teleport himself into the command center from his Eltarian cruiser and is introduced to the Mighty Morphin Power Rangers by his old friend Zordon. He thanks the Rangers for all of their heroics taking on Lord Zedd and wants to make an alliance between the planets of Eltar and Earth official. On the moon, Zedd approaches his prisoner Zelia and manifests her Eltarian battle staff in his hands and pins her against a wall. She asks him how he was able to do that. He says he's been killing Altarians for centuries, knows more about her home planet than even she does, and calls the Altarians glorified conquerors. He then, remarkably, offers to let her go in exchange for telling her a story she'll find interesting. In the Power Rangers TV series, to my knowledge, I don't think we were ever given a solid explanation behind Lord Zedd's disfigurement, apart from it being caused by the Zeo Crystal. What's awesome, though, is that the Unlimited Power story arc gives us a much deeper recounting of the events. It gives Lord Zedd an origin story, and it's easily its most compelling aspect, in my opinion, and makes the comic a must-read for any fan of the franchise. It finds a way to not only strengthen Lord Zedd as a villain, but give him a much greater connection to his arch-nemesis, Zordon. Over 10,000 years ago, a team of elite warriors in gold, silver, and bronze armor were tasked with protecting the universe. Zartus and Zordon had been appointed chief guardians to serve under their mentor, the Supreme Guardian, Zofram, who was handpicked for the position by the Great Council of Elders on their home planet of Eltar. One of their missions had them secure the legendary Zeo Crystal, stories told of a chaos demon named Vitera who controlled the Morphin grid and fed off its power, preventing the rest of the universe from basking in its energy. A savior was called upon, named Zeon, who fought with the demon tirelessly until, feigning exhaustion, he was able to trick the beast and stab it in the heart with a crystal, which absorbed the Morphin energy inside Vitera's body and spread it across the universe. Dark Spectre had sent an assassin specializing in poisons to steal the Zeo Crystal. While the three Guardians were successful in foiling his plot, Zofram and Zartus barely escaped with their lives, and their private, Zordon, had been badly poisoned. Zofram would propose to the Elders that they relocate the Zeo Crystal to Eltar so that its warriors could better protect it. However, the Elders refused. Zofram would lose faith in them, believing they lacked conviction against their enemies, and that by prolonging the war against Dark Spectre, they were spilling more innocent blood. Angered, Zofram would intend to take the Zeo Crystal himself and use it against Eltar's enemies. However, Zartus had conspired against him, wanting to steal his title of Supreme Guardian and the unlimited power it entails. He would have a mage place a curse on the Zeo Crystal, a secret spell taught by the Morphin Masters called the Fire of Truth. When Zofram touches the Zeo Crystal, the skin of his body is incinerated and blown off, leaving only the muscles and tendons underneath. Grisly. The lush moon where the Zeo Crystal had been kept, Earth's moon, had its surface completely leveled by the explosion of energy, which is why it looks so barren in the present day. Zartus would find Zofram and cover him in his cloak. He kills all of the Eltarian guards that respond to the disturbance, and lies to Zofram, claiming they have been plotting against him. Zofram is plugged into healing tubes on Zartus's ship, and he promises to help his friend find the ones responsible. Zofram would be seen recuperating in a cave on some remote planet. The spell that damaged his body has not responded to any form of treatment available. Zartus tells Zofram that he has been declared dead by Eltar due to the amount of his organic material that was left on the walls and floor of the Zeo Crystal's chamber. Yuck! Zofram died a hero, and the Elders have decided that the next in line to become Supreme Guardian is Zordon. In a previous flashback, Zordon had once spoken out of line and told Zofram that he believed in him, and that he alone should be the one to wield the Zeo Crystal. Remembering this, Zofram thinks Zordon is the one who booby-trapped the crystal, so he could become Supreme Guardian. Zofram may have sacrificed his life to protect Eltar, but what remains of him will dedicate his death to its destruction. I love that line. Back in the present, on Earth, Zardes would convince Zordon that his Power Rangers can succeed in an all-out attack on Lord Zedd's moon base. He introduces his Sentry Force 4 that will assist them, the Winged Zenith, the little girl piloting a robot body named 00, the swordsman of very few words, Zeta, and the portal-creating Zeg. Furthermore, upon the defeat of Lord Zedd, Zardes wants Zordon to relinquish the power coins so he can create strong soldiers in his Eltarian army that will watch over the Earth. Enough of this teenagers with attitude bullshit. Thankfully, Zelia had arrived at the command center before Zardes did, and warned the heroes. Before releasing her, Lord Zedd explained that Eltar is no longer a world of protectors, but conquerors. Ever since Zardes assumed the position of Supreme Guardian, he has taken over countless planets and absorbed them into his Eltarian Empire. Any that refuse his command have been destroyed by the Imperials. Zardes has been controlling them like puppets with an artifact known as the Celestial Shard. Zordon summons his Power Rangers and has them quietly gather allies to quell the Eltarian invasion. Zelia then wants to speak with Zordon alone regarding the other thing Lord Zedd had revealed to her. Lord Zedd is patiently waiting on his throne for Zordon to contact him, which he does. Zordon can't fathom Zedd being his old friend Zofram, but the evil warlord tells him something only Zofram would know, something he had said to Zordon all those thousands of years ago. Zordon wonders why, after all this time, he has come out with the truth now. Zedd wanted him to learn the same lesson he did when he touched the Zeo crystal. He wants him to see the universe as it truly is, divided. He mocks Zordon for being a naive servant of Eltar, fighting a war he'll never win. Zedd had to sacrifice everything he was to become his own master and obtain true power, something Zordon would never understand. Realizing Zordon had discovered the truth behind the tampering of the Zeo crystal, Zardes attempts to kill him by smashing Zordon's containment chamber, or tube, jar, whatever the fuck you want to call it. Billy and Alpha 5 are able to save him with a backup system Billy had created after seeing how Zordon had been killed in Draken's universe, never wanting it to happen in this one. The Power Rangers all regroup at Promethea and batten down its hatches as Zardes and his warriors begin their attack. On Safe Haven, the Red Emissary's body would be hooked up to equipment to form an antenna, so Trini could morph and punch it to call out to the Yellow Emissary, hiding somewhere in the universe. She gets through, his location is pinned down, and the Omega Rangers travel there to protect him from the Imperials. The Yellow Emissary would explain that when Kia killed the Blue Emissary during the events of Necessary Evil, the Orange Imperial had been resurrected. When the Red Emissary met his end, it brought back the Green, and when the Yellow Emissary is taken out of the equation, it will renew the Purple. I like how this cause and effect system uses complementary colors. Even the Imperials have speech bubbles that mirror the color of the emissary that was killed to revive it. We learn that Lord Draken had been working alongside Zardes all along, who gave him the means to free himself of his power-dampening collar. For leading the Imperials to the Yellow Emissary's location, he is given the Black Dragon Morpher, and becomes a Power Ranger once more. I love that his red facial scar is reflected on his armor. The Orange Imperial would rip the body of the Yellow Emissary in half and bring to life its purple brethren. The three Imperials are all together, and they use their power to expunge the planet. The Omega Rangers try to escape, but Draken steals their ship and throws the damaged body of Xi down on them before flying away. The Rangers miraculously survive the blast by hiding in an underground cave. Things get pretty depressing after that. Running out of water and oxygen, Trini would use Xi's body to send a distress signal to anyone who might be listening. She apologizes to her parents and hopes one day they'll be proud of her as the battery dies. In an even darker moment, the Rangers, having grown frustrated and out of options, even contemplate removing their helmets together to breathe in the toxic air and kill themselves. Jesus! The planet would continue to erupt, and the Omega Rangers get pinned down under heavy rocks. But they are rescued by, oh my goodness, I can't believe we're doing this, the alien cat Yale, the newest and cutest Omega Blue Ranger. For protecting the children on Safe Haven, time and time again, he was rewarded by being led into the vault by a mysterious voice and given the Omega Morpher that had belonged to Kia. Yale sensed the other Rangers in danger and had their friend Archon activate the Master Arc so he could locate their energy signatures and save them. While putting Xi back together, Trini finds an emergency broadcast sent to them from Earth, informing them that Zordon had been killed and that the Eltarians have invaded. The Omega Rangers arrive and help their friends defend the planet. It looks like the Rangers have the upper hand until Zardes calls on his Imperials. He demands that the Rangers surrender their power coins or face utter obliteration. The Orange Imperial unleashes energy that destroys Promethea. Lord Zedd faces the Green Imperial and is seemingly killed when his moon palace is incinerated. The Purple Imperial also wipes out the command center. The Power Rangers are forced to retreat to Safe Haven. Yale has fellow Blue Ranger Billy follow him to the statuesque remains of the Blue Emissary and punch it to connect to the Morphin grid like Trini had done. Billy meets with the Blue Emissary and doesn't understand how he could still be alive. Being stabbed by Kia had only killed his physical form. His spirit still reverberates through space and time. The Blue Emissary takes Billy and Yale with him to search through Zordon's consciousness, his memories, to make him whole once again. After receiving some words of wisdom from Billy, something he once spoke of himself, that failure is a choice that only begins when you stop trying, Zordon returns and is placed inside battle armor built by Billy. He's finally ready to fight alongside his Rangers for the very first time. Fucking badass. To avenge their master, Babu, Goldar, Squat, and Finster decide to team up with the Power Rangers to fight Zardes' Sentry Force. Squat and Billy would disable the auxiliary power of Zero-Zero's robot body. Squat says, "Go, go, Power Squat," which is just hilarious. Zeg is taken out after Babu hits him in the face with a special potion that has him seeing double, triple, even quadruple. Zenith, or is it Zenith, gets one of her wings clipped by Goldar, who tells her he doesn't play fair, and Zeta is bested in combat by Zelia. The White Tiger, Dragon, and Omega Zords combine their might to take on the three Imperials. Grace Sterling would manage to sneak up behind Zardes and break the Celestial Shard in his hands with her Psycho Green Dagger, freeing the Imperials of his control. The White Tiger Zord and Dragon Zord fuse to form the White Tiger Dragon Zord and use the Dragon Thunder Blast attack to destroy the Orange Imperial and revive the Blue Emissary. The Blue Emissary would then help the four Omega Rangers realize the final form of their Zords, the Ultra Omega Zord, which might be the coolest fucking thing I've ever seen. The Ultra Omega Zord would make short work of the Green Imperial, slicing it in two with its Omega Staff. However, the energies of the dead Imperials combine with the last remaining one to create what the Rangers call a Super Imperial. Before it's able to renew the Earth and achieve universal perfection, an army of Horde emerges, being commanded by Lord Draken. He has them all latch on to the Super Imperial and weaken it by draining its life energy. The entity is then finished off by the Blue Emissary, who grows giant-sized and tears it in half, bringing balance to the universe once again. My only question is if the Blue Emissary had the power to do this when he was alive, to the Super Imperial no less. How come the other emissaries couldn't take out the lone Imperials themselves? The Blue Emissary says the Rangers' combined courage was the storm and he was simply the drop of water, but I don't buy it. Zordon would travel to the moon to enter the Caves of Deception in search of the Zeo Crystal, but the surviving Lord Zedd stands in his way. Seeing Zordon face off with Zedd mano a mano is so incredibly satisfying. I can't tell you how awesome it was reading this. Zedd still blames Zordon for his wounds, for sabotaging the Zeo Crystal, and conspiring against him to steal the title of Supreme Guardian. He ignores Zordon's attempts at making him realize that Zardes has been his enemy all along. He was manipulating them both from behind the scenes. Zardes would teleport himself to the moon and try to obtain the Zeo Crystal, his backup plan seeing as the Imperials have failed. He attempts to remove the curse, but Zordon stops him. To prove his loyalty to his old friend Zofram, Zordon gives him the chance to strike him down for good. The act gives Zedd all the evidence he needs to form a temporary truce with Zordon and help him defeat Zardes. He comes to understand the truth behind what really happened to him. Zardes had learned a few spells from the mages who protected the Zeo Crystal, and uses one of them to manipulate the energy inside Zedd's body. He confesses to turning Zofram into a monster, just so he could use him as a boogeyman to scare the Altarian Council and become Supreme Guardian faster. Zordon would come too, grab the Zeo Crystal, and plunge it into the heart of Zardes, killing him. It harkens back to the ancient tale involving the Chaos Demon Viterra and the warrior god Zeon who saved the universe. Zordon is walking that same path. Afterwards, Lord Zedd sits with Zordon, and the two have a deep discussion. Zedd says he's always hated the phrase, "May the power protect you." He doesn't believe in some invisible energy field protecting the universe. He thinks it's superstition, make-believe. Zedd wonders if there was this energy, where was it when the Imperials destroyed all those worlds? Where was it when all the suffering was happening? Clearly, it doesn't give a shit about any of us. It doesn't care about what happens in the universe. This conversation about the Morphin grid is really an allegory for the argument of religion in general, the belief in some higher power. Zordon admits to him he believes in it though, and that he and Zedd will always see the universe differently, which is why their fighting will never end. Zordon says he's sorry about what happened to Zofram, that he would sacrifice his own life to turn him back into what he was if he could, but Zedd explains the man he remembers was never who he was, which is brilliant. It keeps the Zedd we know from the TV series intact, while the new backstory provided by the comics can still be allowed to exist at the same time. Trini would give Lord Draken the chance to come back and maybe work together with the Omega Rangers, but he says there's only room for one evil warlord in the galaxy, and that if anyone is going to defeat the Omega Rangers, it's going to be him. The Blue Emissary would depart, possibly forever. The other emissaries have not been resurrected following the Imperials' defeat, and he doesn't know why. He might not have long in his current form either. Zordon's armor was only a temporary containment solution, and it's slowly degrading his energy levels and cellular structure. He needs to be returned to his tube, now located at Prometheus' Black Site. Squat, Finster, Goldar and Babu return to the moon and continue to grovel at the feet of Lord Zedd and wage their endless war against the Power Rangers. We learn that Finster had a top-secret mission all along, and that he planted something in the command center before it was destroyed, something that the Rangers will not discover until it's too late. Zedd takes off his mask and tells his minions to gather their belongings. They're leaving for a place where they can revel in their victory. I enjoyed the Unlimited Power crossover a lot more than I did Necessary Evil. It's not that Necessary Evil was bad, it just didn't feel like it was leading anywhere decisive with its story. It also didn't have a central antagonist for most of it, making it feel a bit aimless. Unlimited Power had a lot more meat on its bones. I found Supreme Guardian Zardoz to be an effective villain. Characters like these are easy to despise, manipulative, conniving. He puts on this facade that Eltar will use its limitless resources to transform any planet aligning with it into a virtual utopia, ending its wars, feeding its starving, and toppling any of the corrupt institutions it may have in place, when in actuality Zardoz is only after control. He wants as many planets under his thumb as possible, and any that refuse are wiped away by his ancient weapons, the Imperials. I've mentioned before that Lord Zedd is my favorite villain from Power Rangers. From a design standpoint, he might remain one of my favorite villains, period. I've always found him awesome, ever since I was a child. Apparently, his ingenious appearance was conceived by a comic book illustrator whose name has never been revealed. Tragic. Zedd was introduced in the second season of Mighty Morphin Power Rangers and was the very first American-produced character that didn't make use of any repurposed footage from Super Sentai. Despite his immensely memorable design, some fans have labeled Lord Zedd as boring and one-dimensional, but I don't find it fair to hold that against him. He started off really strong, but parents complained he was too frightening for their kids, and the producers of the show had to tone him down and make him a lot goofier to satisfy them. The Eltarian backstory given to Lord Zedd in the Boom Studios comics is great and makes up for a lot of his neutering that went on in the show. It reinforces him as a character. It allows us to see inside his brainy skull, what makes him tick, what really drove him to be this evil. I like how it centers around his death and waking afterlife. Zofram's a man who lost his way, lost who he was, but embraces it, revels in the anguish, and believes he's better off for it. Who he was, the outlook on the universe he had as a guardian, none of it ever mattered to him to begin with. He's the perfect foil for Zordon, who is set in his ways, his beliefs, and is forever loyal to those around him. The question is, giving Lord Zedd a backstory, a face, does it negatively impact the character in any way? Does it take away from his mystique? I don't think so. If anything, this comic gives him more layers, strengthens him as an antagonist, and the way it accomplished it didn't interfere with everything that had come before in the TV series, at least not in any major way. It gets in, says what it needs to say, and then gets out before overstaying its welcome. I think it was handled about as skillfully as you'd want it to be. Finally, I want to discuss my opinions of Lord Draken. I'm very conflicted. As much as I loved the character within the confines of Shattered Grid, I don't think he serves much of a purpose in the greater comics universe. I don't think there's anything else worthwhile you can really say with him. Turning him into a hero would be damn near impossible, given the atrocities he's committed, and even if it were successful, it would be so paint by numbers it'd be insulting to the reader. Not to mention, we already have a good version of Tommy Oliver. There's nothing this one would provide that the other doesn't. On the flip side, having him continue on as a villain that battles with the Omega Rangers from time to time would be uninteresting. He'll never reach the same heights as he did in Shattered Grid, so why even bother? Again, I like the character. He's one of the best to come out of the Power Rangers franchise in a long time, but a part of me wishes Boom Studios left him alone and kept him in his own universe where he belongs, because the more he shows up, the more diluted he will ultimately become. To be honest, after reading Shattered Grid and now Unlimited Power, I think I've had my fill of Lord Draken. I don't need to see him anymore. If he comes back again, the only thing that would keep me invested and redeem him in any meaningful way would be if he sacrificed himself to save someone in an ultimate act of selflessness. But he'd have to stay dead. That sacrifice would have to matter. If not, we'd just be going in circles with him. I'd be the first to admit that I'm the last person that should be speaking about any of this, but supposedly Jason David Frank wasn't very fond of Lord Draken, not the character necessarily, but what it represented. JDF had pitched a similar idea years before. The people in charge of Power Rangers didn't make good on promises made to him. Some of his ideas may or may not have been stolen. He seemed to have a rocky and frustrating relationship with the higher-ups near the end of his life. Let's just leave it at that. Lord Draken's existence made sense before when Shattered Grid came out. It was a fun story, did something different, injected the franchise with a bit more originality. Hell, it got me back into Power Rangers through these comics. But now that Jason David Frank is sadly no longer with us, I think it's best for Lord Draken to ride off into the sunset. His flaws highlight the strengths of the Tommy Oliver we all know and love, but it doesn't change the fact that he is a bastardization of the good-hearted character JDF made a career playing. He gave his blood, sweat, and tears to Power Rangers. I don't think it'd be where it is without him. Out of respect, Lord Draken should be retired. But I know that's not gonna happen. Money, after all, makes this morally corrupt world go round. Fuck humanity sometimes. I want to thank you very much for watching my review of Mighty Morphin Power Rangers Unlimited Power. I will be revisiting these Boom Studios comics again in the future. Don't you worry. They're easily some of the best licensed comics I've ever read. If you enjoyed the video and found it entertaining, think about supporting my content by subscribing, hitting that bell icon to be notified of future uploads, and become a producer on Patreon to nominate video topics and gain access to new videos several days early before they hit YouTube. Thanks again for tuning in. Take care and stay nerdy.